Welcome back, everybody. It is late August here in the garden, and it is really hot. This is the hottest time of the year, actually, and the sun is just coming up this morning. And remarkably, I have salad, and we'll talk about how that happens. But we have to take advantage of this darker time right now, because as soon as the sun comes out and the lettuce is hit by the sun, it starts to go through a process where it tastes more bitter. It's a physiological process, and we need to get it cut early. So here we go. I like to wear gloves while I'm doing this because I've cut my knuckles too many times. And also, you'll notice this backhand technique that I'm using, that I've also cut my fingertips too many times. And so this backhand technique puts all the sensitive, more sensitive areas out of harm's way. All right, we got a nice harvest of salad mix this morning. I really like this mix. It's a romaine mix, and it stands up better to salad dressing, I feel like. But yeah, I'm going to go put this in the fridge, and we'll talk about how to get salad mix in the summer. Lettuce is a cool season crop, and in order to have it grow well in the middle of the summer, or grow at all, that is, in the middle of the summer, we need to do a couple things to pamper it. And one of those things is give it plenty of water. So we have the water running right now. I will run it 2 to 3 times a week. Some people, professionals who do this, will have sprinklers that are on a timer, and they'll water it for a minute or two, 3 to 5 times during every single day to hydro cool it. But I don't have the means, the time to do that in the middle of summer. I'm too busy with my day job. But the other thing that is key to success is giving some shade. So this is a 30% shade cloth that you can find this online. I got it at our local produce supply store. And I pull this over little metal hoops like this. I keep it suspended over in a little tent, little tunnel. And you can see next to this salad mix, I've got cilantro right here that's loving it, as well as some baby romaines that are coming along, as well as some single cut salad heads or salanovas. That's one brand of them at least. So we've got it harvested. I'm gonna pull this back over and I weigh it down on both sides with sandbags to keep it from moving around. So we do have the irrigation going, and while we were walking around here, I noticed that I've got a decent sized leak right here. I could leave it, but I am going to fix this. So there are, you can cut this tube and make a little splicer go in here, but a quick way for a small leak like this, a pinhole, is to use electrical tape. So I was surprised, I was flabbergasted when I learned this, but it sticks even when it's wet. So I'm gonna wrap this. They say water and electricity are similar, huh? Sometimes they both flow, but check that out. It just like covers it up, and it doesn't plug the leak necessarily, but it keeps the water from spraying on the leaves, which is where foliar diseases can come from. And one of the reasons that I use drip tape in the first place is to keep the foliar diseases down, so that I can just give the water to the roots and not soak the leaves. So this solves that problem. So I'm imagining some people might have questions about this irrigation system and how it works. And generally it's like a soaker hose. There are little holes throughout. You can see every 12 inches, there are holes in this plastic tube, and it drips water out at a given flow rate. It is more cost effective to use this. So if you've got a lot of feet to water, than getting a bunch of soaker hoses in a row. So this is what is used by commercial vegetable growers. It's called drip tape, and it plugs into the vinyl lay flow header at the end with a little fitting, and then you just spool it out along the row, and this is what it looks like on a spool. It's flat, and then it stays flat until you fill it with water. And you can get this in different spacings. Like, you don't need to have 12 inches between. It could be 4 inches or 30 inches, and it does a really good job at keeping the plants watered in a pretty cost-effective way. We used to water by sprinkler in the garden, and after converting to this, I feel like we get much more, a much longer growth period for the plants before they start to look sick. So I love it. And you can see the drips coming out. If I pick this up, you might be able to see it dripping out. And while I'm down here, I'll just point out that we've planted these strawberries, another cool season crop. Planted them, about a month ago, and they're doing well. And this is our crop that's going to be fruiting next year. Last time we were here in the garden, we mowed down the older strawberries, which are right over here, and they've grown back super nice. So I'm excited for this succession. Again, this will be the ones that we harvest next year and will last for 2 years in this fabric. We'll rip the older ones out next year. So late in the season like this is a time when we start to see a lot of disease in plants and things going wrong. And on these cucumbers right here, we have these little tan spots with yellow halos around them. It's a good sign that you've got alternaria. And there are fungicides that can be sprayed on this, but for a cucumber which has a pretty quick ripening time, it makes kind of more sense just to seed a new succession. So I have 5 to 6 seedings, and you can see the young plants over here that are the next most recent succession, I should say, are completely disease-free, and so I'm getting them, I'm going to get cucumbers from them for the next few weeks. For a plant like tomatoes behind me, which is a full season crop, you can't really replant right now for another crop of tomatoes. It's sad when you lose plants, and I have this year. There's a disease called bacterial canker that I'm seeing in a lot of places around the state, and I sadly have it in my garden too. So we are missing about half of our plants here, and so we're lost a lot of paste tomatoes, some cherry tomatoes that we really love, and sadly, there's not much that can be done this season for that crop except to just enjoy what we can get off of it. Other things I'm seeing in the garden and around the state right now are powdery mildew on pumpkins and squash, and sun scald in peppers, as well as some soft rot in peppers. And one other thing that can be addressed this time of year is to provide some additional nitrogen fertilizer to plants that are looking a little peaked, a little yellower than they otherwise should. We've got a good example in our peppers here of some that are looking really nice and dark green, and others right next to them that are a lighter green that are obviously in need of some fertility. So one can send leaves in for a tissue analysis to a lab and figure out exactly what they need, but generally speaking, if the plant is overall light yellow, some nitrogen fertilizer or compost is a good thing to add. It's late August, and from late August to mid-September, if you're growing Brussels sprouts, it's a good idea to cut the top off or snap the top off your Brussels sprout. That plant will want to grow up towards the sun, and it sends a hormone down to the other branches down below to inhibit them from growing so that it can keep growing up. But if you cut that off, it forces the Brussels sprouts then to each start to bulk out, and you get a more even set of Brussels sprouts along the stalk if you cut it. So we're going to do this one right here. I'm going to do a little experiment this year and try the other ones later. But you just cut the top off, just like that. And the thing about Brussels sprouts is it's kind of just like a cabbage. So if you're into that flavor, you can just take this and chop it up and saute these greens, and they're delicious. So in pumpkins, powdery mildew can be a problem. It first infects the leaf, and then it becomes a systemic infection, and it works its way down the vine to the pumpkins themselves. And once it gets to the stem of the pumpkin, the handle, it can cause it to become brown and wither. So I like to get mine before the powdery mildew is too bad. Many people will treat the powdery mildew by spraying with a fungicide, and we are farming organically, we are gardening organically according to organic standards here, and there are still some options for organic growers to use. They're mostly potassium bicarbonate solution, which is like baking soda kind of, changes the pH of the leaf, and some brand names are Caligreen or Millstop, and those will kill any powdery mildew on the leaves and also protect against infection in the next week. I did not do that this year. But I will show you something I did do. And so this is a green pumpkin that's not really going to make a good pumpkin this year, but I'm going to show you on here anyway. If you take a sharp stick or, you know, a pruner or something, you can etch into the side when the pumpkin is smaller. Just make a little mark. So I'm going to make a little smiley face here. Like that. Oh, let's make a little nose, huh? That sort of etching will callus up and turn into a scar, and you can make a pattern on there for when you harvest it later to have a decoration, basically. And I did that with my daughters this year, and we wrote their initials into these pumpkins. So let's harvest them out of here and see what that looks like. When you're cutting a pumpkin, you want to leave the longest handle possible. So I'm taking pains here to make a long handle. Here's what the scar ends up looking like. And then the other one. With this level of powdery mildew that we have in here, I do expect that these handles, though they're green right now, will wither and turn brown over the weeks as we get closer to Halloween. But I'm not really worried about selling these. They're just gonna be taken over to our porch and used as fall decor. If I was selling these, I would want to treat them definitely so that regardless of how long they sat, they would still be nice and firm for somebody to grab and take to their house. Thanks for joining us here today. It's really hot one, but next month when we come back, it'll be a lot cooler and we'll be planting some cool season crops to overwinter. Before we leave, I just wanted to show, we've got this Asian pear here. This is an Asian pear tree. I think Shinko is the variety. This is a pretty easy crop to grow for many people. They don't get the same pests that apples do, and they're still a delightful crop to eat just right off the tree.